Well, hello, everyone. We're for another episode of When Women Believe. As you can see, I have another amazing guest. This is none other than Shaunese Dumas, who I absolutely love. So every time I talk about my guests, I have to give you a long intro of why they're here. So buckle up because this is no different than any other time. Now, Shaunese is somebody I really know. I know Shaunese from back in the day. We both went to Mizzou, and me and Shaunese. One of my favorite moments of Shaunese is when we used to always go to church. So I used to have this Jeep, and the reason why we're laughing is we used to call this Jeep Grand Cherokee I used to have, and I would literally call it the church van because I would go from different dorms picking up folks to go to church, and Shaunese was always late.
You know what? Don't do me.
I like that's what I remember is we would be in there, we'd be like, is Shaunese, we'd be like, we wouldn't be late for church, but she would be late at the time we told her to be there. And she would always get in the car laughing at the fact like she just did while she was late. I had to do this and I had to do it. We were like, her,
But
just
we
get in the
made it.
car.
Bless him. Bless
We
him.
made it. And he has kept us. And it's like, I think those moments, thinking about us being in our early 20s, how sold out we were for the Lord. Like, most people can't say that they went to college and was like every Sunday.
Yeah.
We're there. And so for those that are there, feel free to tell us hello in the comments. I would love to bring your comments up to make you a part of the conversation. But this is my girl, Shaunese. She is now a mom, a wife. She's been in full-time ministry. She is a licensed mental health counselor. She is all of the things. And so this is why I wanted to bring her on to talk about a healing conversation where faith actually meets therapy. And so I'm super excited to have you all here. Hey, Dr. Tara Phillips Jones. I would love for you all to kind of just talk through the conversation. But Shaunese, I done said a lot about you. Tell us who you are. How would you describe Shaunese?
How would I describe me? Well, as you said, I'm a Christian.
Mhm.
Love the Lord, and my relationship with Christ is the foundation of everything that I do. Whether, like you mentioned, me working in ministry for nearly 7 years full time, or me now working as a mental health counselor. Even if a client comes into my counseling room and they're not a Christian, my beliefs about every person I meet being deserving of love, care, compassion, respect, regardless of whether or not our faith systems or lifestyles match, they are worthy of dignity and respect because they are made in the image of God, even if they don't know it. And so my relationship with the Lord shapes how I show up in the room. It shapes how offer care. It shapes how I show up with integrity, you know. There are times when I'm challenged sometimes in work environments because I do too much. But I know that people need help. And many times the help that they need is beyond me. And so, whether they know it or not, I commit them to the Lord in prayer. But
Mhm.
also, I try to do what I can because people are struggling. The world is on fire. Okay.
Yeah.
And I do what I can to try to connect people to community resources so that they can get what they truly need, even outside of the counseling room. So, who am I? I'm a woman who loves the Lord, who loves people, and I enjoy what I do. Ever since college, like you mentioned, I've had a heart specifically for the Black community,
Mhm.
and how I influence the Black community has shifted over time. I went to Mizzou, the number one journalism program in the U.S.
Hello.
Because at that time, hello, I wanted to shape how Black people were portrayed in the media. And then the Lord shifted that as I grew in my relationship with Him to I wanted to raise up leaders. I wanted to help shape people spiritually and give them the gospel in a way that they can grab a hold to it and help them learning how to live practically and not just know intellectually or not just have faith based on what their moms or their grandmothers or whoever that pastor said. As I tell people now, Jesus don't have no grandkids. God don't have no grandkids. You got to have that relationship for yourself. Hello,
Right.
but and so and then after I left ministry and went back to grad school and became a therapist, it shifted again. Still the same heart to reach people, to bring them into healing, to help them to live as God intended them to, but now it's from the perspective as a therapist. And so it's been an interesting journey getting here, but I could not imagine doing anything else. I really couldn't.
I love that. Yeah, because
Hmm.
I'm like, Shaunese, you did so much stuff. Because I remember us doing impact movement. You
Hmm.
know, that was everything. I think impact movement, for those who may not know about impact movement is for college students. You know, I know Shaunese went off and did more with impact movement.
Hmm.
Hey, Millie. Hey, everybody. I love that y'all coming in and saying hello. It makes us know that we are live for real
Yeah,
and people are here watching. So we appreciate y'all saying hello and keep on with the conversations because I
yeah,
love to bring up your comments. Um, I just really impact movement back when we were doing it in Mizzou and we were, you know, really kind of not necessarily new in Christ, but we were really stepping out bold for Christ. And it was just so good to have a community. And I even remember telling y'all, because I graduated before a lot of you all did, I was like, man, I'm so scared to go home because I don't have y'all, you know. And so it was one of those different things that it was just really good. Hey, it was really good to have, you know, just that group because that really started me to say, for God I live, for God I die. And it was like I was never coming back or,
yeah.
you know, to what I was. And so, you know, with having that, I want to kind of talk into, you know, what really called you to being a therapist because you know I know you as my God fearing the person next to me. We have a radical praise, you know. So I was like, man,
Don't
you know,
think about him too much because he's worthy. Come on.
I
Okay.
was like, I know how many you are. I was like, from what I remember of you, we can't say his name too many times. Movement in here. But what caused you, from what I know from being in ministry,
Mhm.
what called you to say, you know, therapy? Because I know you have always, even just at Mizzou, wanted to help. So I know this is in you. That's why I was so happy you
Mhm.
said yes, because you've always wanted to help. Well, what drew you in the past of saying, I want to be a therapist?
Mhm. Well, it was kind of a culmination of things. Ultimately, serving in ministry, I got to this place of honestly burnout. I was doing a lot, and my role had shifted from something that was directly connected to mentoring and discipling students, which I loved and I have a heart for, to a role where I was doing more strategy, marketing kind of thing behind the scenes, which I can do and I do it well, but my heart wasn't connected to it. It was just
Mm-hmm.
a lot of work. And I started praying, especially after my grandmother died.
Mm-hmm.
August 27th, 2012. Never forget it. She died and my life shifted drastically. She died suddenly at 61 from a massive heart attack. And all of a sudden, I was faced with life is short. And what am I going to do with myself? Um, and it started me on this journey of some really significant reflections. Also, I remember having a conversation with God, um, just like, God, help me to understand what's going on with me, what's going on with how I interact with people, especially men. And I'll never forget. It was like flashes of a movie, different parts of my life being flashed on the screen as I was driving to church, believe it or not. And it was
Mm-hmm.
images of past experiences, past trauma. And I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was serving with Impact, and periodically we would do like retreats for staff, so a time to pull back from serving to be poured back into. And that particular weekend, we had a guest speaker, Pastor James White, and he started talking about um, he started the message off describing a story of something that happened to him when he was like 10, I think. And he said emotional pain has a way of sticking with you in a way that goes beyond physical pain. And he
Mm-hmm.
was saying that he was in his 50s and he was retelling the story like it had just happened. Then he shifted to how Jesus deals with emotional pain. And he led us through this Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane and how he wrestled with that. And he challenged us at the end of it. I can remember like it was yesterday. You could hear a pin drop in the room. It was silent. And
Mm-hmm.
he challenged us to deal with our stuff. And they had counselors available. That was the first time I ever met with a counselor. And I remember going in the room fresh because all these images from my life was put in my brain now that the
Mhm.
Lord reminded me of. And I went in there and I just told her all this stuff. I was like, hey, this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened. Now what do I do with it? I was like, I'm ready. I'm
Mhm.
ready to get better, to deal with this stuff, to move on. And that started me on a path of getting help, getting healing for myself. And I actually worked with her for about 3.5 years.
Mhm.
Sweet woman named Catherine, who was on staff with crew at the time, and I saw my life change. The way I
Mhm.
showed up in relationships, me being able to be vulnerable and really be authentic in relationships. Because my whole life I've been that person that people come to because I can listen and I listen well.
Mhm.
But all of a sudden now I wasn't satisfied with surface level or one-sided relationships. I wanted more. Clearly because God was calling me to more, but a shift happened, like I said, when I was in therapy, and I realized there's something more to this. This actually worked. My life is different now, and I want to
Mhm.
be a part of helping people. As I served in ministry, I also realized as I served with impact, and also as I had to raise my salary for nearly 7 years. Everything that I took home to live came from me going to different churches or individuals, casting vision, inviting them to come and partner with me financially to invest in the work that God had called me to. And so I was doing different conferences and speaking engagements and Bible studies and all these different groups. And as I was working with all these different people, pastors included, I started noticing patterns. People would get to a certain place spiritually and they would kind of plateau. They would kind of be in this hovering place. And they would struggle with going to the next level or to the next place that God wanted them to go to because of, namely, trauma or
Mhm.
some kind of emotional pain that they were not willing to deal with. And then we hear stories about, side note but related, stories about grumpy people in the church who's bitter and they're mean and can't nobody stand them. That's that old
Mhm.
lady that don't nobody talk to and don't nobody say nothing about it, right? And
Right.
how can we have people like that? Because there's an area of the heart locked away. They've decided, nah, I got this, right?
Mhm.
And so me going through my own therapy helped me to realize, wait, this is some of what I experienced. And as I opened myself up more to the Lord, and God used that woman to speak life to me and to challenge these dark, broken, and hard places in my life. And I said, yes, things in my life dramatically changed. And I wanted to be a part of that for us. Because also my therapist, Catherine, was white, love her to death, but that's a barrier for many people
Mhm.
to get the help that we need because of just distrust, because of past experiences and that kind of thing. And I had an opportunity because I had done ministry to speak to people in ministry, to speak to people in churches, to say, hey, you can have faith and therapy, you can love Jesus and also get help. And also, there are issues that your pastor or your sister mentor can't really help you with. You got some deep rooted stuff in there that you need some help sorting through, and you need a safe space to do it. But more specifically, you need tools to help you to get there. Therapy can help you with that. And
Mhm.
it's unfortunate because there's a lot of stigma still around the idea of therapy because many people think, oh, that's what white people do, or that's what
Mhm.
those crazy people do, or oh, that ain't for me. I can't afford that. There are all these different things that we think around therapy, especially, well, I'm not crazy. People will use that as a weapon now. Well, you need to go to therapy. Well, I actually think everybody would benefit from therapy
Mhm.
because it's not just a place to talk about your life, although that's very beneficial to have a safe place to be able to do that. Because listen, how many people actually have that? How many Black women, especially, have that? A place where you can show up and be authentic and not have to mask and not have to pretend and not have to be strong and not have to hold space for somebody else, but a place where you can walk in and be seen and heard and
Mhm.
valued and understood and affirmed and challenged in love to live a way that's more healthy, more helpful, right? Like I said earlier, the world is on fire. We're all dealing with the chaos of this economy and all the other things that are happening right now, wars and rumors of wars, as scripture says, right? There's all this chaos going around us. And so, where do we go to get help with that? And sometimes your sister, your cousin, your friend, your mama can't help you with that because they don't have the tools. Sometimes your pastor, your mentor, your elder, your deacon can't help you with that because they don't have the tools. And
Mhm.
so having a space where you can come in and be seen and be heard and be corrected and be challenged, but given practical tools can help you to shift, to live the life that you were always intended to, but you were unable to because you did not have the tools, because you did not have the space. And for many people, authentic relationships, that's a foreign concept anyway. Um,
Mhm.
Many people don't know what it is to be valued, to be in a space where their nervous system is calm, their body is calm, or they can just be and not have to perform. And therapy gives you a space to be able to do that so you can practice for real life. So that when authenticity, when true love and intentionality shows up, you recognize it and you invite it instead of repelling it, right? And
Mhm.
so I do this work to educate, um, to help people heal and grow, but to invite people to live the life that they were always intended to. They just didn't know it. And so
So
it's an amazing gift to be able to do it. Go ahead.
I love this.
Hmm.
I love it. I know I'm putting some of your stuff up here, but some people have really said how important it is for us to be able to relate to our healer and therapist is key. A
Absolutely.
lot of people did say hello, so we said hello back to y'all. Hubby walked in the room. So we definitely want to shout him out. One thing I do want to talk about because you have done such an amazing job of, talking about us as, I love our community. We do need that safe space to show up as our authentic self, our vulnerable state, not always having to be strong or, being criticized for being angry or what people will call sensitive, being having that safe space to cry. I
Right.
think all of those things and just being able to bring our full self to a
Mhm.
safe space. And a lot of times we don't have that, no
Right.
matter whether it's at home or sometimes even in our churches, people will say, oh, you just pray that, you could just pray and you can be done. What I want to talk about is one question I do want to have, and I have another one as well. How do you think therapy can actually enhance your faith? If you're already a believer,
Mhm.
how do you how do you feel that therapy can enhance your faith?
Mhm. Well, is it they really go hand in hand. People don't see it, right? So a perfect example of that is a therapy terminology, cognitive reframing. So it is you practicing challenging negative or unhelpful thought patterns and you replacing it with something else that's more true or more helpful. That's the same thing as taking your thought captive and making them obedient to Christ. That's the same thing as renewing your mind with the word of God. That's the same thing as being anxious for nothing, but
Come
by
on.
everything by prayer and petition, submitting that thing to God, right? Right? It's the
Right.
same thing, right? And so if we are supposed to renew our minds with God's word, that's the same thing as cognitive reframing. If we are supposed to fix our minds on things that are helpful, that are true, that are praiseworthy, they're of good report, it's the same thing, people.
Mhm.
And how much your faith is brought into the counseling room really depends on the person. I've had some clients who will ask me to pray for them or pray with them, and so we'll pray. There are times when people are struggling because they've experienced trauma in the church. That's another thing, right?
Mhm.
They had someone use scripture to abuse them, to manipulate them, and that is not okay. And that is not what I do.
Mhm.
Also, sometimes people will spiritualize things. It's called spiritual bypassing. I really
Mhm.
love to call that out. And that's an example of that is when you ask somebody how they're doing, and they're like, I'm blessed and highly favored. No, but how you really doing? How
Mhm.
you feeling today? What's going on in your life, right? Or it's where someone is grieving. Somebody, their mom just died, they just lost, the love of their life, and you're saying they're in a better place. And while that's true, that does not negate that I can't call that person no more, that I can't hug them anymore, that I can't hear their voice anymore. That will not take away that pain. Spiritual bypassing is dismissing the emotion and trying to simplify it. You're giving somebody a simple answer, like God is in control or they're in a better place, and it's just not helpful. right? And not only is it not helpful, but it's damaging. It will repel people from Jesus, right? Where we are called to love, to grieve with those who grieve, to rejoice with those who rejoice. But how can you do that if you're not willing to lean into the hard stuff with people? Because people are living real life, right? Stress is real, whether you know Jesus or not. And Jesus never said we would have it easy. He said, in this life, there will be trouble, but take heart because I have overcome the world. And so in therapy, when you have somebody who's coming from a similar worldview from you, a similar, so if my foundation is scripture, whether that person knows it or not, then I can offer you hope even when the world is on fire. Because my hope is not in what I see on the news, certainly not in our government's decisions. My hope, my faith is in the Lord. And so, even when a person is in the most desperate and desolate, hopeless place, when they're struggling with thoughts of suicide, I can offer them hope and I can say it can get better. Not just because I've lived it, because I have, but also I've seen it from person after person after person that I've worked with over the last 11 years. Right? I have seen people come out of the depths of despair and come up out of that thing. Right. And if people think depression or anxiety or any mental health condition is wrong or bad, or it's an indicator of a lack of faith, why does the prophet Elijah after, so I wish I had looked it up ahead of time, but it's in my head, so whatever, we just gonna go with it.
We're gonna go with it.
So Elijah the prophet came and he was fighting against Bathsheba's people, right? All of the prophets of Baal, right? On the Mount Carmel, look it up. It was like 300 or 400 prophets of Baal, I forget how many. And they tested to see which God was real.
Okay,
Elijah
just
let them go first, right? And they were, they had their altar set up, the sacrifice, and they said the real God will rain down fire from heaven. So they marching around, they singing, they dancing, they cutting themselves, they doing all their rituals, and nothing happens. And then it's Elijah's turn, and they pour water on that altar multiple times. And then God rained that fire from heaven and sopped up everything. And then Elijah and his crew killed all of those prophets. Right? So they saw this mighty move of God, and immediately afterwards, I said Bathsheba, Jezebel is Jezebel. Jezebel got word, and she said, "I'm coming after you. Just like you kill my prophets, I'm gonna kill you." And what did he do? He ran for his life, and he said, "God, take my life. I'm sick of this. It's just me by myself. Ain't nobody else left. I don't want to deal with this." That's depression. That God take my life. That's suicidal thoughts. That's the same thing. Right. And this was right after he had this literal mountaintop experience where God revealed himself. It is the human condition to struggle. It's the human condition to sometimes get weary, get discouraged, get tired. It's okay to be honest about that. That does not change the fact that God is good, that God is sovereign, that he's on the throne, that he can do the impossible. None of that changes the reality of who God is or who I believe him to be. But I can also hold two things as truths at the same time. Two things can be in conflict with each other and be true at the same time. In one breath, I can say life is good. And then the next, I can say life sucks. I'm having a hard day. But I get to choose which one I lean into more. Right? I get to choose which one is going to be more helpful. But sometimes when life is so heavy and so hard that it doesn't feel like that's really a choice. Actually, it's a part of our wiring. We naturally and normally lean into negativity as a survival instinct. And so what do you do when you get stuck? You get help. Just like someone with migraine headaches will go take some Excedrin. Just like someone battling cancer will go to the doctor and maybe get chemo or radiation treatment. Just like someone who broke their foot will go get surgery, get a cast, or go through physical therapy. Why is mental health any different? If God can strategically put people in different categories, hello, one of the disciples was a doctor, somebody. Right? If we can believe God that God can strategically put people in other places, then why can't he strategically or intentionally use a therapist? We have misconceptions about what therapy is. It is not my job or my intention to tell somebody how to live their life. When clients come in and ask me for advice, I will answer the question, but the goal is, what is it that you actually want for yourself? This doesn't work when it's me giving you instructions. This doesn't work when you can't identify for yourself what you're working towards. It is never my goal to usurp someone else's authority on their own life. If somebody comes in and they're struggling and they continue with struggling, okay, if that's what you want, if that's what works for you, okay, let's do that. Right. But I will present how what you just said contradicts what you told me a month ago. Because a month ago, you told me this was your goal. So, how is what you're doing now lining up with what you're saying you want, right? Part of
Mhm.
my role as a therapist is to act as a mirror. So I reflect back what I'm seeing in not just what you're saying, but also in what you're not saying, what I'm observing as far as how you show up emotionally or avoid emotion. I'm acknowledging patterns that you might not be able to see, right? Even if someone is coming in and they're saying, okay, I just want to trust God more. And then they're doing all these things that are in direct contrast to what scripture says or with what they are saying they want. I will present it back to them. Okay, so you want, let me give you a perfect example. Someone who was on the fence about their marriage and they're a believer and they're like,
Mhm.
ooh, but God hates divorce. Okay, so where are you with this? Right?
Mhm.
Why do you want to stay? How is you staying honoring to God? How is you leaving potentially honoring to God? Did God call you to be physically abused? Show me where that is in the Bible, please.
Oh, verse and chapter.
Right, right. And so I will present them with questions to challenge the way they're thinking. I will offer them space to process or to sort through how they're feeling in real time. And that doesn't have to exclude scripture. Some clients are adamantly against faith, and that's okay. I give that space too. But for clients who are Christians, it makes a significant difference having someone who is also a believer because what we are called to, what we live, what we believe is countercultural. No one else is going to get it. No one who is loving their enemy. That is countercultural.
Mhm.
Nobody else is going to get that at all. Right? Praying for someone who misuses you. That is
Mhm.
countercultural. Walking in humility and integrity when other people are backbiting, cheating, stealing, and winning. That is countercultural. And so when you are saying that, let's say it's a healthy marriage, but you're just struggling, you want
Mhm.
to stay in your marriage, and everybody around you is like, girl, leave him. It is countercultural to choose to stay,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
so you have to have somebody who understands where you're coming from spiritually, right? But also be wary of somebody who's preaching the whole time because that's not what therapy is.
Mhm.
Therapy is not a Bible study. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but I'm here to present you with truth. And fortunately for you, my truth, my understanding is what God's word says.
Mhm.
And for those who don't know, I actually got my counseling degree from a seminary. And like I said before, I didn't say, I served in ministry for 7 years before I became a therapist. So I have a foundation that guides what I do. And that
Mhm.
gives me an amazing privilege to hold space for both in real time.
So, Shanice,
Mhm.
how do you, okay, because most people want to probably do therapy and they're probably thinking, I absolutely want to do therapy now. And I love that y'all are commenting through. Thank y'all.
Mhm.
I love
Mhm.
to see it. Um, so I'm a person, for example, I want to take up therapy. I think I found somebody that's okay. How do I bring up faith in my therapy session? Because it didn't say that they were a Christian therapist.
Mhm.
They just cool and I like them.
Mhm.
But how do I do this? Because my thought is, come on, you better praise them while you're here. But but my thought is sometimes when you are a Christian, and especially me, Holy Ghost filled, tongue talking, holy roller,
Mhm.
how do I feel comfortable bringing that part to a therapy session?
Well, first of all, you want to ask either a lot of therapists will do a 15-minute consultation for
Mhm.
free. Ask it then, right? If your faith is important to you, and if you know your deal breaker is this person has to be black, or this person has to be a woman, or this person has to be a Christian, then ask that, find that information out in the beginning, whether it's during the consultation or the very first session. You can ask them, so what's your background, right? So my faith is really important to me. Are you comfortable discussing that in session? You can directly say, are you a Christian?
Mhm.
If they're not, they're not, and then you can part ways if that matters to you,
Yeah.
right? I think people are scared to ask questions, but that's what it's for, right?
Hmm.
Because as much as you are um trying to sort through things for yourself, you should be interviewing this person. Go in with questions. So if you know that your issue is stress, ask them, do they have experience working with people with stress? If your issue is trauma, ask them, do they have an experience or training in dealing with trauma, right? If you are a Christian and it's important for you to know what their background is, ask them about it. You know, if the denomination matters to you, ask them about it. You know, you can ask them about where they study. You know, if there's something specific that you're looking for, no matter what it is, just bring it in the room, right?
Hmm.
And most of the places where I've worked during the initial appointment, we do an assessment, and so we evaluate different areas of your life. And part of the areas that we discuss is faith, because your faith, whether you're spiritual or not, influences how you live. And so, generally, I know when a person is coming into a session, kind of where they stand faith wise.
Hmm.
And but I allow them to take the lead. So if somebody comes in and they're like, "I went to Bible study and this was really cool," or one of the ways I help deal with my stress, because generally in the first session, I will ask clients, what do you already do to decompress? What do you do right now to manage your stress? And if a person says, well, I pray or I listen to worship music, okay, ding, ding, ding. Okay, they might be a Christian. Okay, we'll see where this goes. And I'll ask more questions. Okay, so how does your faith or your spiritual background influence how you live day to day? And you can also ask the therapist that. You can
Hmm.
ask that. How does your faith or your spirituality influence how you function as a therapist? That's a great question to ask. That
Hmm.
way, you know what you're getting into ahead of time. Because if that person is an atheist, or if that person is, um, I don't know, I don't want to go too far. Uh,
Yeah.
but I'll say it this way. I had a client come to me and specifically say, I need a therapist that is a Democrat. I need a therapist that is a Christian. Those are deal breakers for me. That's okay. Say that. And if
Hmm.
that person doesn't align with you, then move on to somebody that matches, right?
Hmm.
But unless you ask the questions, you will not find what you're looking for, no matter what the issue is. If you're specifically looking for someone who works with kids, ask that. If you're specifically looking for someone who has parenting skills or talks about parenting or postpartum, ask about that. You will not know, you will not find what you're looking for unless you ask. So take time before you schedule that phone call, before you schedule that first appointment, and write down some questions. Go in there,
Hmm.
prepare yourself like you would for anything else, so that you can find what you need. And if it's not a good fit, it's okay. That person, if that person is solid, and they hopefully they are, they're not going to be offended by that. But guess what? If they do get offended, that means that's not your person, and that's okay.
Even more so.
And then you can part ways before damage is done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love the fact that you said that you should ask questions, because I think the
Absolutely.
thought process is you just think you're supposed to come in there and they're the ones that's supposed to ask you a bunch of questions, and
Nope.
you're just supposed to sit there, and then you're just like, this isn't working, this isn't working, and then you walk out with nothing. And so I love the fact that you gave us some really good questions to say,
Mm-hmm.
just be direct, just be honest, and
Mm-hmm.
if the person doesn't work, it's okay.
Yep.
Most therapists knows that some people pick you and they don't, and they move on to someone else, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Because really, what I'm hearing you say is that that person should really be, if they're a true therapist, they're really just here to help. And so
Right.
if they're not the right person to help you, then they don't even want to be there either if I'm not the right fit for you, because the whole
Mm-hmm.
goal is I'm just here to help.
Right.
Um, so I want to talk about one thing, and this might shift the conversation a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but what are some signs that a person may need therapy? Because we've kind of talked about they've been in the church, we've talked about picking a good therapist. I want to kind of take it back a step.
Mm-hmm.
What are some signs that someone might be going through life and they're just like, these might be some signs that you might need some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So chronic fatigue, no matter how much you sleep. Um, your mind is racing, you can't get it to stop.
Mm.
Difficulty with sleep, you can't get a good night's sleep. Irritability, no matter what you do, you're constantly snapping on people left and right.
Mm.
You're feeling like you're not yourself anymore. Maybe you're having issues with memory. Uh, And it could be a physical condition or something going on, or it could just be stress, which is getting in the way. Do you have chronic stress? Right. So, who is therapy for? Therapy is for anybody, for everyone, anyone who has a life problem, and who has a life problem, everyone. So, it
Mhm.
could be because there's a new problem in your life that you need help sorting through, whether that's a loss, maybe someone died, or maybe it's a loss of income or job. um, when therapy is for anyone who has an issue that they need support sorting through. So it could be a communication problem in your relationship, or it could be tension that you're trying to deal with in the workplace, right? Maybe you are frustrated and drained as a parent, and you don't have an outlet to authentically say, this is hard without fear of judgment, right?
Mhm.
Really anything that you're wrestling with and you're having a hard time coping with is a sign for you to try therapy. And let me clarify what I mean coping
Mhm.
with coping. So our culture, our society teaches us how to escape very well, right? So we find things to help us to turn our brains off, to check out into, whether that's TV. So Netflixing and chilling for 5 hours, that's a sign that there's something you're trying to avoid. There's a sign that there's something maybe emotional going on or stress and you're just trying to veg, or doom scrolling. Constantly scrolling on that phone, that's the way you decompress every day, all the time. That's an
Mhm.
indicator you got something going on, probably, right? Or you're struggling with doing the thing that you know you need to do, whether it's putting in that job application for and fears getting in the way, or maybe it's having that conversation with the person who keeps offending you, right? These are signs that there's something going on there. You're struggling, you need help, right? And so you can get support for that. And there's no shame with that, right? Because we all have something that we're wrestling with. Let me go back to my list of checking out into stuff. Sometimes we check out into alcohol, to drugs, to sex, to relationships, to shopping. Okay, retail
Wait a
therapy.
minute, we're
That
offended.
is a sign that there is something going on that you're trying to avoid when you spending all this money that you cannot afford to spend, and now your credit cards are sky high, and you're struggling even more financially because you're not dealing with something. Another one, food,
Mhm.
stress eating. You got to get all the snacks, or you so hooked on caffeine you can't function. That's a sign that maybe you're not getting sleep, maybe you're not taking care of yourself, right? um, so all these things we use to escape.
Mm.
Sports in some ways has become religion, right? We find things to allow us to detach from the things that are distressing, right? Those are indicators that you got some stuff that you might need to sort through. And that's not to say any of these things are bad or wrong, but if that's your only way of decompressing, that's an indicator that you got some stuff that you need to sort through, and that maybe therapy can help.
Yeah. Baby,
Mhm.
you didn't ran some of this. Okay. Listen,
I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to help, you know?
the comments were me, and I was so glad y'all said it, and I didn't say it because I said, because when
Mhm,
she said shopping, I said, "Excuse me, let's just go
mhm,
ahead and in here
mhm.
because
You get
why?"
a dopamine hit. You get a rush, right? It feels good to have this new thing with this tag on it, right?
It
Because
does.
you're trying to avoid something else, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's getting you in trouble, if your shopping is preventing you from paying your rent or your phone bill or your whatever on time, that's a problem. If drinking has become your only way of functioning, and so now you can't even get out of the bed and function, you late to work, you getting DUIs, now that is getting in the way of you being able to live. Now you're risking your livelihood and your safety. That's a problem.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, let me help the people out again. No, I'ma save us, okay? I'ma save us, everybody. Let me just get to another question because, baby, she like my girl Sister Clark said, baby, she's snatching our edges in these streets, and I didn't come for all of this. Wait a minute. How do you okay, so now you didn't got us to say we need
Mhm.
therapy.
Mhm.
Because at this point, if you wasn't on the list, you might be somewhere on the list. If you're on the list and you're like, hey, I'm thinking about therapy, you done gave me good questions to pick a good therapy. What should a good therapy session feel like? what should I walk away and be like, you know what, that was a good session versus being
Mhm.
like, maybe I should go somewhere else. Like,
Yeah.
what's the first? I know you made a video very similar to
Mhm.
what we can expect, but what can we expect, and what does a good session feels like?
Well, it differs per person because every person is different, and also every
Mhm.
therapist is different. So
Yeah.
me, I'm expressive. I'm going to talk with my hands like I have been during this podcast, right? And I like to ask questions, and so I'm not going to sit there and just listen to you talk forever. I'm going to interrupt you if you're a talker, or I'm going to ask questions so I can learn more about you, right? So you
Mhm.
have to know in one sense what you're looking for, and so for someone who is the strong person, is the go-to person for everybody in your life, you're most likely looking for somebody who's going to slow down and listen. Someone who won't let you take care of them in the room, but invite you to space. And so many of my clients, I'll challenge and I'll say, "Hey, how you doing today?" They're like, "I'm fine." And then I'll ask, "Is that your real answer?" Right? Because I actually care, because I actually want to know. Right. And I'll ask follow-up questions. So you told me about X, Y, and Z that you were trying last week. How did that go? Right? You told me you were going to try going for a walk. Did you get a chance to do it? Not to judge or criticize, but to support you because you said you want to do this, right? And so, in a good therapy session, initially it's going to feel uncomfortable. It might feel awkward because let's talk about it. While therapy can be incredibly helpful and can lead to healing, it's uncomfortable because you're talking to a complete stranger about your life. Most people don't do that, right? So
Mhm.
you're going to go in with some nerves. You're going to go in with maybe some anxiety. You might have butterflies or knots in your stomach. That's okay. But in a good therapy session, you should feel seen, heard, valued, validated, right? You should leave with something kind of lingering in your mind, like more questions you want to ask or more insight, like, wait a minute, I never realized that that was a problem. I just always did that, right? You should leave with some kind of takeaway point, right? But if you're in there, you feel like you can't be honest, or
Mhm.
you're scared to ask a question, or you feel like you're going to offend that person or that you have to take care of that person, those are clear signs that maybe that's not the therapist for you. If you're having to overly explain your worldview, your experience, whether you're from the islands, from the Caribbean, wherever, if you have to spend the whole time explaining your culture to that person, that's not the right person for you. It's time to move on. Go find you somebody else. It's too many. And as far as where to find somebody, there's so many different platforms where you can find a good therapist. For
Mhm.
example, a black uh, therapy for black girls is a great place to go, right? Psychologytoday.com is a great place to go. You can find me on both those places. um Literally let AI work for you too. You can type in chat GPT, Copilot, black therapist in my area. Type in your zip code, right? Whatever pops up, then especially like on Psychology Today, you can search for exactly what you're looking for. If you want a male therapist, or if you want a non-binary therapist, if you want a therapist that specializes in chronic illness, you can search for that. If you want to search for a therapist that uses your insurance for billing, then let's
Mhm.
talk about it. Therapy can be expensive, but
Mhm.
there are also community health centers where there are reduced cost therapy, where you can get therapy on what's called a sliding scale. So that's based on your income. There are community health centers for people who struggle with paying for it. And then there are also organizations like the Loveland Foundation that specifically raise money for Black women to get in therapy for free. They will
Mhm.
give you vouchers. I don't remember for how many sessions, but they will give you vouchers because they realize that this is a need, because they realize that there are barriers that get in the way. And also, if you have people in your life who really love you and who support you and care, ask them to help you pay for therapy. Take up a collection. People do a GoFundMe for everything else. For when somebody dies, why don't you do a GoFundMe for therapy? For somebody who's really in your corner and rooting for you, I bet you they'd be willing to help. If you get
Mhm.
$10 from a few friends, like you do, we find a way to make everything else happen,
Mhm.
but we don't want to take care of ourselves.
Mhm.
Let me go back to something I often tell my clients. We are dying.
Mhm.
Stress kills. I don't care what any statistics say and nobody else says. Stress will send you to the emergency room faster than anything else. Like I
Mhm.
said earlier, my grandmother died at 61. She thought she was having gas for 2 weeks. She was having minor heart attacks. That lady worked 7 days a week as a daycare provider in her home. She never took a day off. She had morning kids, she had night kids, she had weekend kids that she took to church. She never got a day off. Stress killed her. I don't care what nobody else says. Nobody. And
Mhm.
so I know that fundamentally, that stress kills, that stress can stress will eat away at your immune system, so it makes you more susceptible to viruses and illness and disease. If you have any underlying health conditions, stress, the stress hormone that gets released in the brain, cortisol, is constantly flowing through your body. That's not how it's supposed to be. Cortisol is meant to gear you up to get you high alert so that you can run or fight to protect yourself. Cortisol is not supposed to be flowing through your body all the time. Cortisol will mess up your organs. You end up kidney failure, liver failure, heart attack, stroke, high blood pressure, migraine, headaches, all that. Those are signs that you're stressed. Going back to who needs to be in therapy. Are you having tension headaches? Are you having migraines? Are you having tension in your neck or in your body? You got aches and pains, you limping in different places. Maybe it's not because you're getting older. Maybe that's stress,
Mhm.
right? And so there are places out there who are all about, thankfully, we're talking about therapy more, especially in the church and in the Black community. And so there are resources available. Go look. I bet you can find a scholarship for it, right? Sometimes churches will even sponsor you, depending on the church you go to. I know my church will do that. And so finding the resources you need are more likely than not as hard as you think.
Mhm.
I'm on Threads, and I'm oftentimes seeing people say, "Hey, I need to find a therapist. What do I need to do?" And what are people saying? "I found my therapist here. I found my therapist here." Ask people, talk about it, right?
Mhm.
Most likely, if well, like my grandmother used to say, a closed mouth don't get fed, right?
Right.
If you ask, then you probably can find what you're looking for,
Mhm.
right? But knowing where to start can help. So you can go on Threads, like I said. You can go on Psychology Today. You can go on Therapy for Black Girls. And then there are a lot of online platforms as well where you can get support. I'm on Sondermind. I'm on Headway, right? And then there are companies like BetterHelp or Grow. There's so many different places where you can get support, and they most of the time will work with you with what the payments are. So don't let money be a barrier. Like I said,
Mhm.
we find money for everything else.
Mhm.
You can find money for the new shoes, for that new outfit. Hello, somebody.
Come on here, nails, feet.
Uh-huh. But most likely, insurance will pay for it, or
Mhm.
sometimes your job will pay for it. You
Yes, it
can
would.
get free therapy through your EAP, your employee assistance program. I
Mhm.
got free therapy. That's how I got connected with my own therapist. That's another
Mhm.
question to ask. If you are trying to get started in therapy, ask that therapist if they've ever been in therapy. That's a clear sign of whether or not that person is a solid therapist. You got to be doing your work or have done some of your work already to do this well, right?
Mhm.
I found my own therapist through my EAP,
Mhm.
and I got, I think, initially 6 free sessions,
Yeah. Mhm.
and then when that ended, my copay was $15. I was like, "Oh yeah, let's do this. Let's
Right. You
do
hired. You're
this
hired.
forevermore, forevermore." And she was Black and a Christian. Let's do this forevermore,
Mhm.
right? It matters. If you ask questions, most likely you can get the support you need,
Mhm.
but we get scared.
Mhm.
Don't
And with the
let fear stop you.
EAP,
Mm-hmm.
and with the EAP for those that are listening, the EAP has nothing to do with work.
Nope.
And a lot of times you're like, oh, the time, depending on your job, you can
Mm-hmm.
even do it on your lunch schedule. Like it's a young lady that's on my team, and I'm not telling her
Mm-hmm.
business. She types and say, hey, I got a therapy session from at
Mm-hmm.
2 o'clock. She
Yeah.
gets to go. And it is
Or what I've done before, I have a doctor's appointment because it's nobody's business. I
true.
have a doctor's appointment at 1 p.m. and they will block it, or you can take time off, or
They're
you can
gone.
leave and come back. It doesn't matter because it is a medical appointment.
Or it can be virtual.
Absolutely.
When you were talking about the EAP, that's literally how I found my therapist, and I
Mm-hmm.
call her my unicorn because I was like, she's Black, she's a minister, and she's
Yeah.
on my copay.
Yeah.
I was like, and she's,
Yeah.
I was like, she's a unicorn,
Yeah.
and so I love the fact that you're able to tell people all these different resources
Mm-hmm.
because that is one of the things that I had as a
Mm-hmm.
question, and I'm glad you already answered it.
Mm-hmm.
Was it's affordable. You can find ways. There's scholarships. There's other ways you can do it. Your job that you go to every single day, which is probably one of the reasons you might need to
Hello.
go,
Hello.
is
Mm-hmm.
helping you and will sponsor you going to get at least 6 sessions is it really helped me out so much. And then to see that they were on my insurance, because your EAP is outside of your job, a third
Right.
party that will help you find someone that will also take your insurance. And so, and it's so much cheaper when your insurance does take it.
And
So
the therapist cannot report back to your job. Your therapist will not report to HR what you're talking about in therapy. That's the
no.
HIPAA violation. So the information that you share with that therapist stays there.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And that's what I think. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because I don't want anyone to think, oh, I can't talk about my boss, because it has nothing to do
Mhm.
with your job whatsoever. And yeah, like even other people in your household. So for those
Right.
that are looking for the parent that's
Or a
looking for
spouse or a child. Yeah.
your
Mhm.
child, or if it's marriage, it can be different things. And some of them will even have you at 6 sessions by yourself, and then you have 6 sessions with like a family, or you
Right.
doing couples. So there's so many different ways how it can be
Mhm.
affordable and free to give you the help you need. So thank you,
Mhm.
Christophe, for bringing that up too, to say that it doesn't just have to be you, it can be the entire family. A lot of EAP will be for your entire family. So I have another question for you.
Mhm.
And we're getting close to time, and I'm so sad. I'm like,
You can always have me back. Hello.
I'm gonna make sure I put this up for folks. If you're enjoying the conversation, I do want you to definitely follow her on social media. I think you guys can see it on both ends, but you do want to follow her on IG. Before she leaves, she definitely will let you know where are all the different places you can find her. Text
Mhm.
me, friends, so I can put it on the post, and so people
Mhm.
can know all the different places they can find you on social
Yeah.
media. She's currently in Florida, guys,
I
so
am.
I
So
know
I
it might.
am licensed. The way therapy works is different from a lot of different medical professions. A therapist has to be licensed in the state that you are in order to
Mm,
work for you. And I know
mm,
a lot of your folks are in Missouri, and I'm originally from Missouri, Kansas City to be exact.
yes.
And I am working on my Missouri license. So I will let you
Come
know.
on.
I will let you know once I have the Missouri license, and then that will allow me to see clients who are in the state of Missouri
They
also.
already asking for you back.
I would love to be back.
No,
Absolutely.
they already asking for you back. I want to ask you
Mhm,
one more final question before I
mhm,
go back to you personally, to say, personal stuff.
mhm.
But how do you know? And this might be, it depends on the person, but how can someone know when full healing has taken place? You
That's a
got
good
Jesus,
one.
you
Mhm,
got your therapy. How
mhm.
do I know like full healing has really taken place?
Well, some signs, there will always be signs of growth,
Mhm.
right? Maybe the thing that bothered you before that you would normally snap at, you have a bit more patience now. You're able to take a step back and reflect before you respond. You're not immediately reactive. That's a really good sign that healing is happening, right? Or maybe you're better able to manage relationships or conversations. You're able to deal with conflict in a way that is productive, where you're listening to understand, where you're working towards a resolution rather than just trying to be right. Right. And maybe the things that were hard for you before, right, to even think about, let alone talk about, especially
Mhm.
when dealing with trauma, you can talk about it or you can be around something that reminds you of it and you don't um, check out or become flooded with emotions, right? Full healing, I don't know that we will ever experience that on this side of heaven, to be honest. Right,
Okay.
but it's possible to grow and to be at a better place. That's just like things like faith. How do I know when I'm full of faith?
Yep.
That's an ever going process, right? Like the man who came to Jesus and said, to ask him to heal his child, and he said, "Well, I believe, but help my unbelief." That
Yeah.
will be our confession until we go to heaven. And
Mhm.
so when you're growing spiritually, when you're growing emotionally, there will be signs. There should be a clear distinction from where you started to where you are now. Maybe it's a little bit easier for you to love that person who used to get on your nerves all the time.
Oh my God.
Maybe you can have a little bit of empathy to imagine kind of where they're coming from in a way that you didn't before. And even though you can recognize that their behavior is problematic or wrong,
Mhm.
you're not snapping at it anymore.
Mm.
right? Or you can pray for that person genuinely and not just be like, God, get them,
Mm.
you know, where you can walk away from something and have peace and not go and gossip about it and be constantly talking about the issue. You have some freedom, some space to live and function, right? An indicator that you're healing is you can rest. Hello, hyper functioning Black women, right? Where
Don't
you
call us
can say
out.
no and that be a full sentence,
Yeah.
where you can let somebody else do it and you don't have to problem solve everything for everybody, right? Where you're not so desperate for attention or affection or whatever that you're saying yes to everything when you really want to say no. You're able to rest, right? You're not living for the vacation because you've built in routines and habits and systems that bring you life, that bring you joy, that allow you to rest, that allow you to de stress so that you can function and live, right? The migraine headaches have gone away, right? You've been able to distance yourself from some of the toxicity in your family or in your work environment. Maybe it's quitting that job that you've been scared to quit, right? Mm-hmm. And so there should be signs that there is a shift that's happening,
Mhm.
right? The deeper you go in God, the more He's going to challenge you, right? A babe in Christ is not going to have the same level of convictions as somebody who's been walking with the Lord for 20 years. The same thing is true when when you're walking through therapy. Now, nobody has to be in therapy forever, right? Some people are in therapy for a few sessions. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 3 months. But some people who are dealing with or who have a history of childhood trauma, they might be in therapy longer, but it can also be seasonal. Maybe the one thing you initially went in therapy for, let's say the issue was conflict in your relationship. Maybe you
Mm.
got to resolve that. You've got some really good tools, you're functioning better, you're enjoying each other. It's okay to take a break. And maybe at a different point in your life, you go back to therapy, but for something separate. Maybe you had a loss, you're dealing with grief or depression, and you want support around that, right?
Mhm.
It's okay. Throughout my life, I think I've worked with 5 or 6 different therapists. And each therapist that I worked with, there was a different issue that we were working through, that we were resolving, right? And that's okay because we are ever evolving, ever growing, right? And so sometimes you just need support, and sometimes you're in a place where you got it. Therapy is also not the only place where you can grow or heal, right? Some people heal through healing communities where small groups, not Bible studies, ain't nothing wrong with Bible study, but in small groups, you're actually doing life with people. You're actually getting to know people. That's where accountability comes in. That's where discipleship comes in. That's where support really comes in because now you know that lady is struggling with them kids by herself. She ain't got no help. She ain't got no break, but you can show up and support her. You know how much love that is for somebody who's struggling with kids by themselves.
Mhm.
Listen, postpartum, we don't talk enough about it. Maybe we need to have a whole thing about that. But people don't talk a lot enough about it, right?
Mhm.
Because first of all, after you have a child, you don't come back to yourself. I don't know if you ever get your brain back. My son is 6. I don't know if I got my brain back, but
Yeah.
you don't you don't get back to yourself in a sense until 2 years afterward.
Mm.
And most of us have to go right back to work,
Right.
right back to household responsibilities. You know, the system in America is not really set up for moms, especially, to function well. And
Mhm.
so sometimes you need support with that, right? And so maybe it's getting in a mom's group, maybe it's getting in a Bible study, maybe it's joining Black Girls Run. Not everybody runs, some people walk. Um, it's getting plugged into spaces, to community where you can do life with other people, and so much healing and growth can happen there. But you got to be willing, you got to be open. And so my hope is that more people are encouraged and inspired to try therapy. But even if you don't, that's okay because it's
Mhm.
not for everybody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, Shawnee's, friend, this is amazing. So tell us, because we're wrapping up. I don't want to say thank you yet, and people start dropping off. Tell us what's next for you. Like, what are the next steps for Shawnee's? What are we going? What can we look
Woo.
forward to? What are you even looking forward to? The next 5 years or so. What's next?
That's a good question. I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah.
One thing I know for sure is the Lord has challenged me to step away from a full time role that I had at a community health center. And so
Mhm.
now I'm doing therapy on my own terms. So I'm working with a couple different organizations to so that I can do more of faith-based care, and I'm so excited about it. And so
Mhm.
I'm currently building private practice, so clients that I meet with strictly online. So I'm doing that now, and it is a definite step of faith, but I know God is in it because I see stuff falling into place that don't even make sense. I'm
Yeah.
being told that it takes 6 months to do things and it's happening in a couple weeks. And I'm like, all right, God, you moving, you doing stuff. Okay, then. But I'm excited because, like I said, I cannot imagine myself doing anything else. I look forward to doing more speaking engagements, doing more groups, women's groups or women's conferences, things in churches. I haven't been able to do that in a while. And so I'm looking forward to getting more into that, being a resource, in the community in a way that I haven't been able to with a traditional 8 to 4:30 job where, I'm stuck in a building. So having some more flexibility to show up for my family and
Mhm.
to do the things that I love, I'm so excited about that. So excited. And it's amazing for me to also work at a company where the owner is also a believer and a Black woman. That's
Love it.
amazing to me.
Mhm.
Right. And so I'm so excited. Her name is Lori. Hey, Lori. I'm so excited to be able to do more of this, right? To have more conversations like this, to answer those questions that people are scared to ask,
Yeah.
because so many barriers are broken down when somebody sees a brown face because
Yep.
they already know she's going to get me in a
Mhm.
way that somebody else won't. Whether
Mhm.
the person is Black or the person is Haitian or the person is Dominican or the person is Jamaican, they see a brown face and they like, she get me. She got curly hair like me. They asking me about products and earrings because I'm always have on a big earring. Hello.
Yes.
I'm always have on a big earring. Um, and it breaks down barriers and it gives us a starting point. So even if they're nervous, girl, you look good. Where you get that from? Whether
Mhm.
it's your shoes or a purse or, perfume, girl, you smell good. It breaks down those barriers. It allows us to connect and be human because we are. And
Yeah.
so I'm so excited, like I said, to be able to do that more in the community. I am here in Florida, in Davenport, Florida, in Polk County. But any person who is in the state of Florida looking for a therapist can work with me directly. So, like I said, I'm on Sondermind and I'm also on Headway. I will get the information to you, Tanisha, so you can post it if people want to connect with me. But I'm excited. I'm excited about this new chapter, be able to more freely walk in what I believe I was made to do as a therapist because I have a unique view on life because of my background in ministry, because of my training. And also, side note, Shelly is in here. She was my first supervisor, was also a Black woman, Haitian woman, but also a believer. I've been surrounded by some amazing women who have mentored me in so many different ways. And it's been a beautiful gift to also do that with others. And
Mhm.
so I'm looking forward to at some point becoming a qualified supervisor. Basically, that means I would be someone who can supervise other new therapists as they're coming in. And
Mhm.
so I see a lot on the coming horizon, but I'm just waiting for God to give clarity and direction to more fully walk in it. But I'm excited. I
I
really
love this. I'm
am.
excited for you.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for you. We talked a little bit offline, and I'm so excited for you. I'm definitely going to keep up with you now that I got you. I'm going to keep up with
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
What's
Yes,
going on?
ma'am. Let's do it.
So I know you talked a little bit about this
Mhm.
before, but just in case if I needed to clip this or if I'm just coming in, if I'm in Florida, where can I reach you? But if I'm in Missouri, and I love this conversation, follow you on social media. Where can I
Absolutely.
there? Tell us.
So, yes, you can find me on Instagram. So, if you see my name on the screen, put it in Google, you'll find me. My Instagram will come up, my threads will come up, my Facebook will come up. So, Shaunese Dumas, LMHC on Instagram or on Threads or on Facebook. You can search for Shaunese Dumas and you will find me. If you want to get set up for therapy, like I said, I'm on Headway and on Sondermind. You can find me there, and I look forward to working with you. And I look forward to getting back to my folks in Missouri. Like I said, I will let you guys know once I'm officially licensed, and then we'll get going with my folks in Missouri.
Look, because that's what we waiting on.
Because that's where all my family is. And friends have been like, so when can I share your stuff? Not yet. I'm working on it. I'm gonna get there.
Listen, the people in Georgia talking about some. So, but what about Georgia? The only thing
You
they're
know,
like,
hey, if there's a need, I'm not opposed.
listen. So I thoroughly have enjoyed this so much, and I'm sure you all have enjoyed it as well. Please, please share this to anyone that is there. If you're on Facebook and you're watching us, share the live. Also on those who came on YouTube. I'm so excited that your people came on YouTube. They showed up, okay? So the people that are on YouTube and those that are on Facebook, you can still always grab this on YouTube, because Facebook loves to delete the lives after 30 days, but this will live on YouTube. So if you didn't get to watch the live, or you know someone that needs it, go to When Women Believe on YouTube, and you can actually share it to that person, because there was so many good nuggets and conversations that was here.
Let me say something else before we go.
Girl.
It's okay to need help. It's okay to get support. Just like you would go to the doctor if you were struggling with a broken ankle. Just like you would go get some Excedrin if you had a headache or a migraine. It's okay to get help for a mental health condition. We stigmatize mental health because we can't see it or because we're afraid of it, right? Sometimes it's a demonic attack, but also sometimes it's a generational thing that's been carried over in your family, right? Some of the mental health stuff can be carried literally in the bloodline. And also, you Black in America, you dealing with generational trauma even if you don't know it. Hello, somebody.
Okay.
And so it's okay to get help with that. And even if that therapist doesn't work for you, find you somebody else. It's so many therapists. I'm telling you, there are. And many therapists are licensed in multiple states as well. And so I'm working on that. I'm coming
Get
for you,
on it,
Texas.
friend.
I'm coming for you, Texas. I'm coming for you, Missouri and Kansas. All of y'all. At some point, that is my goal, to be licensed in multiple states so that I can serve the people who need support. So I'm excited about it.
Good. So I was gonna ask you if there was something else that you wanted to say. I'm looking at people saying it's okay not to get.
It is. It's okay not to be okay and to get support. Mm-hmm.
If there was one thing, and I know you kind of talked about it before, but I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
give you a chance, because I know who you are. Like this, I know who you are. If there was one thing that you would want somebody to know, if they saw the podcast, Burley saw the podcast, cut in, cut out, what is one message that you would like? If you didn't hear nothing else I said, know this. What would that be, Shaunese?
It's
Before
what I
closing
said
out.
earlier. It's what I said earlier. Stress kills.
Mm-hmm.
Stress will send you to the emergency room faster than anything else. And if you don't take care of yourself and learn how to rest, learn how to take off that Superwoman cape. If y'all have never followed Dr. Raquel Martin, she talks about this all the time. I love her stuff. I absolutely love her stuff because she talks a lot about Black women walking in rest. And we need that. We have been carrying the community since the invention of time. And also, we aren't taught to get help or to ask for help. We are often conditioned, we're trained, even if it's not spoken, through what's modeled for us, through what we see. We learn to be the help, and it's killing us. Get you some help. Get you some help. Sometimes getting help is hiring somebody to do something that you don't have to do. Maybe it's hiring somebody once a month to come and clean. Maybe it's bartering with a friend. Hey, friend, I'm going to take your kids for a couple hours with we're going to go to the park so you can rest. Hey, friend, I know you really love laundry and I hate it. Can we trade? I'll do your dishes if you do my laundry. Listen, it takes a community. And like they say, it takes a village to raise kids, but ain't no village no more. Ain't no village no more. So we have to start creating that for ourselves. But you cannot get help if you don't ask for it. If you ask, you open a door to a potential yes. But if you don't, the answer is already no. The answer is already you not getting what you need. So you might as well ask so you can get what you need. You've been praying to God, God help me with, and there's probably somebody that can help you with that. But because you won't ask, you can't get what you need. You never know what help is available if you just ask.
Amen, friend. Come on now. about travel. There was therapy church. Oh, yeah. I almost told you to put your cash app in the comments, baby, because
Hey.
somebody needs to give you some time. You didn't bless us
Give an
today.
offering.
You give an offering. Just go ahead and line up and give what you can. That was good. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, friend. Thank you so much for being here. I know you have blessed the people that came in. The comments were just rolling through. And I love the fact that you really just stressed about just open your mouth and say you need help.
Mhm.
Stress is the biggest killer. Like you can look down the line. I mean, she didn't just say that to be saying it. If you look it up and do your research, that is what's killing the majority of us, especially us as Black women who,
Mhm.
like you said, we are known as the helper. We're helping everybody else but ourselves. And it's
Mhm.
like you got to take our time for you. I love that you gave the resources, but I
Yeah.
do want you all that if you love this conversation beyond just the podcast, you got to follow my girl. You got to follow her on Instagram. All of her information is there. She's posting more and more. So if you saw her and if you see her name is right there. If you can just see how Shaunese Dumas, and it literally is all together at you can go to IG and all of her links are right there. And so if you follow her on IG, you will be able to follow her everywhere. And so I just want for you all to just stop for a second,
Yeah.
jot down her name, go
Yeah.
ahead and look over there and get her over on IG.
Mhm.
Yes, you get all of her information. She's also in Threads because she's constantly posting content of what
Mhm.
therapy should feel like, the red flags, what are some things that you should ask. So even after today, if you still want to
Mhm.
follow her journey and what she's doing, because we waiting on you, girl, in Missouri. So
I'm coming. I'm
I'm gonna tell
coming.
them now to go ahead and follow you now. So as soon as you say Missouri, I'm ready. The floodgates can be open to get these sessions because the
Yeah.
people have heard your heart. You know, the people have heard your heart,
Yeah.
and just on a personal note, as from what I've known you in early 20s. Come on, somebody gonna put it up there. Hey,
Thank you.
you better help. I mean, you better help. I'm gonna put it up here one more time as I talk so
That's
the
my
people can
that's
come
my girl Deidre. We met on summer project with Impact and been
on.
friends
Yes,
ever since. See,
yes.
you people don't know genuine friendships exist. I have
Mhm,
friends that I've been friends with for 20 years and we don't see each other. We
mhm.
haven't talked. and
No, but
and
we talked.
and
I was just like, "Hey, girl, how you
it's
doing?"
probably been 10 years since we, really talked and caught up at least, right?
Mhm,
But a
mhm.
good friendship, a genuine connection, you can pick right back up. And if
Yes.
you've never had that, it's possible. But maybe therapy can help you sort through some
Mhm.
stuff that keeps you from leaning in or prevents you from trusting people. Well, I don't do women. Friend, that's probably a sign. That's
That's
probably a sign. You got some betrayal, you got some hurt, you got something you need to sort through. We can help with that.
mhm.
I promise we can help with
I love it. Follow
that.
her, y'all. If you love this content as much as I have, follow her. We're definitely going to start this back up again next month.
Yes,
But Shaunese, thank you so much. I hope you guys have
absolutely.
felt a little bit of a healing conversation from this today. I definitely have. You have the steps, the tools. You have some darn good resources from today. But I thank you guys so much for joining Women We Believe, and we'll be here next month. Thanks, Shaunese. Bye.
Bye.
Let me see how we can get out of here, girl.